persecutors just misguided protectors? Let's get into it. So, I guess warning for this video, we will be vaguely mentioning abuse and SH. So if you're uncomfortable with that, this may not be the video for you. So I spent the majority of my time in the system as a persecutor. So let's talk about what persecutors are. Persecutors are alters in the system that harm the system in some way. They can harm the system internally, causing alters some form of duress, potentially within the inner world if the system has one, or externally, such as pushing the system's support system away, or through other forms of SH. Persecutors typically hold a significant amount of trauma, and these forms of harm are typically a maladaptive coping mechanism. The persecutor may or may not think that they are helping the system in some way by doing this harm. Persecutors can be interjects of abusers who perpetuate the abuse that the system is experiencing. This is what most of our persecutors are. Our trauma was fairly random, and it felt a lot safer for us to cope with it when it was consistent, which is why most of our persecutors exist. Reformed persecutors have the potential of becoming good protectors, and persecutors may think they are or be trying to protect the system through the harm that they cause. But I have consistently pushed back against the idea that persecutors inherently be seen as protectors. And this is where we get into my story in the system. So in my Meet the Alters video, I mentioned that I was one of the first alters to exist in the system. Initially, it was just me and the host of the system that existed. My role was to handle the physical abuse. I formed with my senses being more dulled and numb to the world than anyone else in the system. A lot of the physical abuse tended to coincide with emotional abuse, so my emotions ended up becoming more numbed as well. A lot of my resentment towards the rest of the system existed mainly because of Claire. And I don't want this to be anything against her. She did not know she was doing it and has apologized. It's just an important part of my story and how I became who I am. And she has consented to me sharing this. So Claire did not initially know she had the ability to force other alters to front, and I was the only alter that she ever really forced to front. She was constantly throwing me into the front to deal with things that I was not formed to take care of. Even minor things like, oh no, we stubbed our toe, we're in pain, Veronica can handle it. I was just repeatedly used as the meat shield for the rest of the system. And the amount that no one in the system seemed to ever care about me constantly getting hurt to protect them ended up turning into rage and hatred and the wish that I could harm everyone else in the system in the way they harmed me. The one exception being Cynthia, because she was the only one who couldn't remember our trauma. And I didn't want her to have to become like me. And my trauma from all this ended up also being the main contributor to why, when our inner world restructured, forced switches were no longer a thing that could happen. Our inner world is now structured in a way where each individual alter must make the choice to front. They can be pulled co-conscious, but fronting has to be a choice. For as long as I have existed until very recently, I had the roles of primary, external, physical, and emotional protector, and emotional gatekeeper. And these continued on even when I was a persecutor, because I was the only alter in the system who was capable of doing them without the system completely shutting down. And I've never enjoyed doing them. They've always been more of a burden than anything else. And I guess I should also explain how our emotional gatekeeping works, since no one else has. In our inner world, our emotions can be split from the memories they are related to and take the form of a mist, which is colored in relation to what emotion it is, and those emotions go into the vault. The vault can only be opened by a single key that I used to possess and now belongs to Grace. My role as emotional gatekeeper was to be able to interact with the negative emotions that we hadn't processed yet, and allow other alters access to them only when they were ready to be processed. So alongside processing my own trauma as a trauma holder, I was also tasked with processing everyone else's trauma on a regular basis to help decide if they were ready to handle it. I was constantly dealing with an overwhelming amount of trauma 24/7 for the majority of my existence in the system. And I hated that part of my existence. I didn't want to see it define me. I didn't want to be forced to protect when I couldn't even handle my own trauma. I was angry and resentful. I wanted every other alter to pay for putting me in this position, and yet couldn't do anything about it, because then I would have to continue to do my job in the system. Which I didn't want to do. And I hated being stuck in that position. I was constantly trying to find ways to make it end. I was a persecutor because I was forced to be a protector against my will. And it pushed me into protecting myself in unhealthy ways. It's only been very recently, within the past few months, when other alters had formed to take over my roles, and I was able to finally take a break, when I went from pushing back against being a protector out of simple resentment to pushing back against being a protector because I saw how much harm it did to me. Because the only way for me to truly protect was to stop protecting. As counterintuitive as that might seem. And I'm still working on not being a persecutor. I still have a lot of trauma to work through, since I hold a majority of it for the system, and I still have a a lot to resolve with other members of the system, but I've finally been able to make progress through stopping protecting. So to other persecutors out there, I get it. I know the pain that you're likely going through, and you deserve the space to work through it at your own pace. And to other alters in the system, remember that however much persecutors may hurt you, they are also hurting and still deserve respect. It may be good to set boundaries with them, but it's also important that if they set boundaries with you, that they are respected if those boundaries do not in and of themselves cause harm. And of course, persecutors can make it harder to keep the body safe. So any safety plan will need to be tailored around their existence. This may not make life convenient or pleasant, but it's important to prepare for if they do front. It's important to see where persecutors are coming from in their behaviors instead of simply villainizing them for the harm that they cause. It's important that you are willing to work with them to help them heal any trauma that they hold that may be causing the maladaptive coping mechanisms that are causing the harm. Persecutors will only ever continue to be persecutors if you treat them as though they are evil, irredeemable monsters. Hopefully, this video was insightful. If you have any questions, or if any persecutors want to share their experiences, you can drop that in the comments below. If you liked the video, please give it a like and subscribe if you want to see more content like this. If you want to learn more of the basics about me, you can check out my Meet the Alters video up here. Or if you want to learn more about our system, you can check out our playlist down here. Thanks for watching. I hope you're having a great day, and we'll see you in the next one.